This little module is the brains behind the F1 brake light flasher, and I've installed it on all kinds of cars. I put these on just about every WRX you can think about. I put them on Evos, I put them on Kias, and I put them on Hyundais, and even my buddy's Ferrari. Now the cool thing about this universal part is that you can program it and customize it exactly the way that you like. I've even put together a free online course that you can check out. I'm gonna put the link in the description below, and it teaches you all the steps to program it. Now these things work best if your taillights already have LEDs in them, but if you don't, you can always replace your original bulbs with LED bulbs, and this thing will work perfectly. So I'm gonna take you back to a couple days ago where I've already upgraded to LED bulbs on my wife's Kia Sorento, but now I added the F1 brake light flasher as well. I've talked about these things in a lot of videos, and today I'm gonna install one on my wife's Kia Sorento. So this might look a little bit different for your car, but I'm gonna show you how to find the right wires to tap into. We just need two of them, the brake light wire and the ground wire. We're gonna put this thing in right now, and to do that, I'm gonna remove this tail light, and then I'm gonna get access to the wires behind it right here so that I can run my module and run the other wire over to that tail light. So here we go. So an easy thing that you can do is just turn on the parking lights on the car and then go and test to see which wire is hot. So we're gonna use this little test light, and all that it does is it connects to ground on one end, and then the other end, if you poke a wire that has 12 volts going to it, the little light inside will light up. So I'm gonna put the little ground connection right there, and what we should see is one of these wires should be hot, and I'm guessing that it is this red one for the parking light. And I'm guessing probably wrong. Let's try the green one. Hey, so the green wire is hooked up to the parking lights. That means that this red wire is going to be my brake, and so I want to find the red brake wire that's inside the car. So that's what's gonna come up next. Now your car might be a little bit different than this one. We're gonna remove this light. Now a lot of cars, you could just pop the trunk, remove a little panel, and then you're in the back where the actual wires are, back here. We did remove this panel. It's super tough to get back there, and what I found was that just by pulling the wires a little bit more, I was able to access the wires that are behind the grommet. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna cut this red wire that we identified as our brake light wire, and then each side of it is gonna go to the module, and I'll put the module back in this one little recess in here, just so that it's not in the weather. I mean, I could see from looking at the back of this light that there's been some water kicked up in there, there's dirt, dust, all that stuff, and this is a little electronic module. I don't want it to be getting all that stuff on there. So let's tuck it in there, and then we're gonna run the other wire to the other side, and we'll talk about programming next. All right, so here's our big moment of truth. We know that this is our brake light wire, so we have the tail light side, and we have the vehicle side. So we want to strip this wire. Okay, so these two wires used to be connected, and now I have them going to the input and the output of my module. So the input wire is gonna take in power, and the output is gonna go after the brake light flasher and send that power back out to the LEDs. I'm gonna put these little connectors on there in a way that if I ever wanted to, I could literally just plug them back into each other like that, and those wires would be reconnected. So this is totally reversible. So we have these two different connectors. Which one goes where? This is what people get wrong all of the time. So I'm gonna make it really, really simple. The red wire goes to your switch. That's power, right? So we want the power coming from the car to go into the switch. So we're gonna take this connector that has, in this case, it's a male connector, and we're gonna crimp that onto power coming from the vehicle. After you crimp it, just make sure that the metal is right in the center, okay? And now we'll be able to plug that thing in. I'm gonna also crimp on the opposite side, and as you can see, these two connectors can go into each other. If we did want to, we could always put these two wires back into each other. And our last connector is a ground wire. So this is a T-tap. It actually bites down on the wire, and when we crimp it down with crimpers here, it's just gonna bite into it. A lot of people hate these things. They don't like T-taps. You can solder, you can do everything that you need to if you want a better connection than that, but now that connection can be made directly into the module just by plugging it in. So T-tap is very convenient if you're just trying to do something quick and easy, right? Now we've got our power for the switch plugged in, and we've also got our output to the LEDs. Okay, so now we're gonna be able to slide all that stuff inside so that it's out of the weather, but before we do, we're gonna do some programming. We're also gonna run this other wire. I've detached all the little clips on this bumper so that I can tuck this little yellow wire to run from one side of the car over to the other.
Meanwhile.
All right, if you don't have a friend, get something that you can wedge against the brake pedal to do the next step. Scoot your seat forward just a little bit, push in on that brake pedal, and then you could just make sure that whatever it is just wedged between your front seat. And now the brake pedal is basically being pushed so we can see that is on. Now we can start playing with our on and off switch. Woo, that's the first one we got to see. We'll talk about programming that thing in a bit. Before we do, we're gonna run this yellow wire from one side of the car to the other. Now, if you are gonna do all the wiring inside the car, this is something that you would do running the wire from the back side underneath all these little panels. We did pop everything up on these. I think this is gonna be the easier way to go, especially for this one really quick. But these little clips right here gotta come out too. As soon as they do, I can pull the bumper just a little bit further out. Okay, we're finally on the other side. We're gonna clip this, and just like before, we are only interested on the taillight, the LED side. So we're gonna strip that, and we're gonna put this connector from the extension wire. Make sure we crimp it the right way, and we should be good to plug in and start messing with our programming. Now that we've got both taillights connected to the brake light flasher, we're gonna do some programming. So I'm going to remove this little twist tie here, and then that's just gonna give me a little bit more slack on this on and off wire. This is specifically so that I can step back and look at the car as I test it. So if I'm looking at this one right now, there's a couple things that I could tell you. It's on a setting that has about 8 flashes, so I wanna change that. I have a whole video that talks all about all the programming in there right now, but I can tell you what I wanna put it to right now. I'm gonna keep it on mode 1, but I'm gonna drop that to 4 flashes. So let me change that really quick, and then we'll show you the final result. All right, so we have 4 flashes. That's actually street legal. I'm going to put all of these guys back inside of the car. Super important, make sure that your switch is in the on position so that it's sending power to the brakes. Okay, here we go. All right, so you really just need a couple tools, maybe a drill, some crimpers, test light, and don't forget the thing that you have wedged on the brake pedal.